When last we met, we left Llwyd and Abigail in quite the situation, gentlefolk. But I must confess, I've been wondering what Diyote is up to. I miss him. You know what? Let's check on Diyote. I do believe we left him at the Rise, sleeping on an ill-discarded couch. Yes, he was on his way to the Eye of the Anvil to meet that mysterious red-headed elf. Willow was her name. But with Lady Corliss looking for him, will he even make it? Only the dice know. So, listener, join us as we roll and tell. Welcome back to Roll and Tell. I'm Jeffrey.
And I'm Christian.
And we are your players, your storytellers, and a horrible landscape that you just painted in a beginner's art class.
No more needs to be said. Everybody understands exactly what you just said.
Yeah, everyone knows. Everyone has that experience.
Yeah, everyone's been there to a drink and paint night.
That's exactly what I was thinking of. And like you come home with it and your roommate, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your mom, your dad, somebody says like, oh, that's really good. But you hear it in their voice. You know it's not.
You hang it up in the hallway anyway.
You hang it up.
Because you're proud of that shit.
A memorial to your hubris.
Yeah, dude. So we're roll and tell. 2 players, no game master. What is it?
Only chaos.
Only chaos, baby. We're here to tell a story that we don't know what that story is yet.
No, we don't. And it's about to get weird because we are going to go back in time.
Yeah, I'm actually, dude, I'm loving this whole little like path divergence in this like temporary time period that we're in. Yeah. It was cool to see Llwyd and Abigail go do something on their own. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be cool to like take a step back and see what Diyote was doing in that time.
Yeah, so we played through Llwyd and Abigail for an entire day, and now we're jumping back to the beginning of that day to see what Diyote is going to be up to. And this is going to be a particularly interesting experience for Christian and I, because I don't have a player character to play as right now.
It's going to be strange.
Yeah.
It's like you're not even playing.
This is going to be a little bit closer to me game mastering you for a little bit here, Christian, but in all honesty, I'm not because chaos is going to be feeding me my lines.
Right. Exactly. I guess some things to note. We are still following the chaos based off of our last session. Yeah. So we're at a chaos 4, even though that was technically Llwyd and Abigail's story.
So it's been a little bit since we've been with Diyote. So, Christian, would you like to walk us through where Diyote is at right now?
Yeah. I mean, as far as we know, the last thing that we saw Diyote doing was, talking about the next steps with Llwyd and Abigail. Presumably, he left the Rise and headed to the Eye of the Anvil because, as he had mentioned before when they were leaving the City of Fear, when they had come across Willow, he had mentioned how he had always wanted to visit the Eye of the Anvil and go do something on his own. So that's probably still fresh on his mind, and that's what he wants to do.
Yeah, and Christian, to put a little bug in your ear and our audiences, does Diyote think that maybe Willow or someone can help him help the High Death and potentially find the being that created the High Death? Is this his kind of like trajectory?
Absolutely. That's his path right now because he still wants to fulfill that promise, and he's looking for leads and information on how he can find this sorceress and sever this connection between the High Death and the sorceress. So I don't think he knows. Well, of course, he doesn't know the connection between Willow and the sorceress yet, but he's looking for information wherever he can. So he's probably going to bring that up.
Okay, yeah, and it's probably a good person, because of what we know in the background, a good person to ask questions. She gathers information, and she works for the sorceress, but Diyote doesn't know that yet, so. All right, you ready?
Let's do it. The scene is Diyote arrives at the Eye of the Anvil to meet up with Willow. Do you want to roll the chaos for that?
I think you should, since you're the player in the scene.
Then I shall roll.
Even though we've been told by listeners that you're no longer allowed to roll dice.
Yeah, I'm only allowed to tell.
You're tell and I'm roll. What you didn't know is this whole time, the title's actually two names. I'm roll and you're tell.
Yeah, kind of like Penn and Teller. That's Jeffrey Roll and I'm Christian Tell. Nice to meet you. Okay, let's see what we get. Breaking the rules already. It's an interruption.
What a great way to start.
I rolled a 4.
I will roll for the interruption though.
Okay. This is why I'm not supposed to roll.
There are people who just audibly groaned.
Yeah. One person in particular that I know is saying, "This is why I said to not let Christian roll."
The groan is about to change into sobs because it's player character negative.
Oh my gosh, dude.
I assume it's you. I assume it's Diyote.
Well, yeah, because I'm the only player character in this scene, so it has to be.
I think we have to go with that logic.
Shoot. What the heck, man?
All right, so you little chaos boy, would you roll me a subject?
Yeah. Oh, no. Okay. What's your action?
I rolled inform.
Fame.
Inform. You get spotted.
Yeah, dude. Oh, man.
Yeah, people recognize you immediately, and you're
tired of running from people.
So yeah, I think that's like the obvious thing, right?
Yeah.
Diyote gets seen immediately. Diyote, you open your bleary eyes, and there's a little bit of sunlight pouring through the boarded windows of the rise. It's morning. You look around you, and you're alone. For the first time in quite some time, Llwyd and Abigail must have left at the crack of dawn. You've got a little blanket over you. You're sleeping on a second-hand couch from Castle Osteel.
Diyote's a little bit sad that Abigail and Llwyd didn't say goodbye before they left. The last thing he remembers was them talking about all of their next steps, and then he must have just drifted off to sleep. He can only assume that Llwyd and Abigail got some sleep too, but he could have sworn that they would have said goodbye when they got up. Did Llwyd and Abigail leave some sort of note before they left?
Seems likely.
Yeah.
No?
Diyote looks around the room to see if Abigail and Llwyd left any sort of note, saying exactly where they were going, or just we'll see you later, see you soon at the Eye of the Anvil, something, anything.
There's nothing. You look around, and all that is there is dust on tables. Some discarded papers that you hope are notes, but they are just from Rosalind and the Thronebreakers.
Diyote nods to himself, and he removes this blanket from atop of him, puts his feet on the ground and stands up, starts looking around to see if there's anything that he can take with him for this upcoming day of his. He's going to try to make his way to the Eye of the Anvil to meet Willow, but just in case, he's looking around for any food or water he might be able to take with him. He doesn't have much.
Do a discern realities for me.
Yeah, discern reality. Yeah, I got semi-success in one question. What here is useful or valuable to me?
I'm going to roll a subject and an action. I rolled stop exterior factors. To me, that means that you probably find something like a cloak or something to protect you from the elements.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, what color would Rosalind wear?
If we're logicking it out based off the Thronebreakers and everything, of course I would assume it's close to black, if not black.
I like that. Diyote, you look around and there's not a lot here, but you do see a fine cloak, a little worn, but nice. It's hanging from a hook in the corner of the room. It's black.
Diyote walks up to it, realizes that it might be useful to keep on him just in case it starts raining or anything like that, or if for some reason it gets a little bit cold. So he takes it and he wraps it over himself, over both of his shoulders, flips up the hood onto his head to see how it feels, flips it back down when he realizes that it feels fine.
Now I'm curious. Rosalind had magic. Is this cloak magic in any way?
If I have to be honest, I don't think so. I'm going to say very unlikely because I feel like the magic came from her.
You are very correct. It is no. Yeah, just a mundane cloak.
With that, Diyote realizes that there's not any more reason to just stick around in the rise. There's nothing here for him. So he walks up to the door, to the entrance where they had entered the rise, and decides to take a step out.
You open the door, and the morning sun pours in. How cautious are you as you exit the rise?
Diyote is not cautious at all. The fact that he's still wanted back in the castle isn't crossing his mind whatsoever. Even though Llwyd told him so many times, be careful, you're still wanted, Diyote's not even thinking about it.
Diyote, since you're a fool as one of your classes,
Yep.
and since you immediately disobeyed Llwyd's plea to you, I think you get spotted like the second you step out. How do we determine who sees you? So do you think like 50-50, below 50 is a citizen, above 50 is an authority figure?
Sure, I think that's a great idea.
It's a guard.
Of course.
Diyote, you step outside. You feel the sun on your face. It's actually been a little bit of time since you could enjoy that, because you've been in the darkness, you've been in the dank walls of Osteel, or you've been like hiding and avoiding things. And you take a moment to just enjoy the sun. And then you hear a voice. Diyote?
Oh, God. Who is this person? Who is this guard? I want to know this guard's name.
Do you think it's the same guy? Like after this, he goes to...
Absolutely,
Yeah,
dude.
he goes... After this moment, he ends up back at Swords Keep.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'll give him a name. Let me roll for pronouns. We haven't rolled for pronouns yet. They, them.
They, them. Okay.
Their name is Emerson.
I have one question. Does Diyote know this guard? Has Diyote been around Emerson before? You know, being around the royal family and whatnot. I'm assuming Diyote knows some of the guards.
I'm going to give it 50-50, and at a 50-50, that's a yes. You look to your left. Standing not 10 feet away from you is a guard, dressed in armor, and they're clearly on patrol, early morning patrol. And they're staring at you with the most quizzical look, a combination of shock and confusion. You'd recognize them anywhere, Diyote. This is Emerson. They have the squarest jaw that you have ever seen. And just visible, peeking out from underneath their helmet that exposes their face, you see a birthmark that Diyote, it always reminded Diyote of something. What did this birthmark look like to Diyote?
I'm going to go to Maze Rats, and I'm going to roll from Treasure and Equipment section and see if I get like some sort of object. Diyote recognizes that birthmark anywhere. It looks like a mug of ale. And he says to Emerson, "Hey, Emerson." And then he realizes the way that Emerson's looking at him, and he decides that this may not be the best situation to be in. And he quickly comes up with some sort of excuse. I was just headed to the castle because I've got to get back.
Did you escape your kidnappers?
Yeah, I was hiding out in this building right here all night because I just needed a place to stay while they went somewhere else.
That is incredibly brave of you.
Thank you, Emerson. I
will escort you back to the castle.
Thank you so much for your support here, Emerson, but I think I can walk myself back.
I can't allow that.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, and as Emerson is saying that, almost as if they didn't hear you, even though they responded, they've been walking towards you the entire time, and they are now standing directly next to you, their hand on their scabbard, ready to draw a weapon if a kidnapper shows up.
That's a mighty big sword you have, Emerson.
They just nod.
All right, lead the way.
And they gesture for you to go first.
Of course. And Diyote starts walking cautiously, taking step by step, very aware of each placement of his foot every single time it goes down, and he starts walking towards the castle. He keeps doing this for several minutes until he eventually gets to a corner where there's an alleyway to his left. And right when they reach that alleyway, Diyote books it down the alleyway.
So I think logically, this would confuse Emerson.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask this question. I assume it's a yes, so I think it's going to be a sure thing. I think they believe you were kidnapped.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, they believe that with all of their heart. And when you dart down this alley, they're confused. For a moment, they don't know what to do. And then they say, Diyote? Master Kismeta, please wait.
And Diyote just keeps running and running. Should I do a dexterity roll?
Yeah, defy danger dex.
Oh, that's a full success.
In their confusion and the fact that they're weighed down by this heavy armor and you've got this black cloak and you're smaller, you can describe how you get away from Emerson.
So as Diyote's running down this alleyway, he takes whatever turns he can to hopefully throw off Emerson from following him. While he's running, he even decides to throw up the black hood over his head, hoping that it disguises his face in some way, or the back of his head in case he's approached from behind. And eventually, he stops. He finds a couple of crates and just tucks his body down in between the crates next to the wall and sits on the ground, hunches over with his arms wrapped around his knees and the cloak just folded over the entirety of his head, hoping that if somebody passes him, they will take no notice.
Yeah, and as you're hiding, you hear steel boots on stone. And Emerson is caught up and they're looking around for you and you hear it. Master Kismeta, what is going on? They just run off in another direction trying to find you and they're just shouting over and over again, Master Kismeta! Master Kismeta!
Poor Emerson, dude. They sound so pathetic.
I think they're really nice.
Absolutely. And as soon as it seems like the coast is clear, Diyote lifts up his head, takes a look around, looks to see if there are any other guards, if Emerson's anywhere nearby.
In a manner of speaking, it is clear, but you do see that you're kind of like in, I would say, the interstitial parts of Osteel, like alleyways and whatnot now, but there are a few people around. You see like somebody like looking out a window because they heard a guard yelling, and you see other people kind of looking around. So there are people on the lookout.
Diyote, he is a fool, clearly. He got himself into this situation. But now he still has to make his way to the Eye of the Anvil, and he realizes that all eyes are on him, and they're going to stay that way for a while. So I wonder if there's any way I would be able to make a quick sacrifice to the fairy to create some sort of small illusion over myself and make me look like someone else.
Yeah, so long as you make a sacrifice, we've said the fairy accepts sacrifices of blood and humiliation.
So which one does Diyote choose? I'm going to discern realities again.
Okay.
Please. Ooh, baby. That's a full success. Okay, so first and foremost, I think Diyote's looking immediately for something that he could maybe like harm himself with, maybe like a piece of glass or whatever to draw some blood. But even more abstractly, if there is something that could humiliate him, he's open to that as well. But is there something here that's useful or valuable to me?
I certainly don't think Diyote knows exactly how this transaction works, but he has noticed that when he's in a bad spot or he's in pain, the fairy shows up in his head.
Which is why my first thought is that he's looking for something to harm himself with.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, it's an alleyway. And I think you're behind these crates, so you could easily, like, cut yourself or give yourself a splinter or something like that.
Right.
I think it'd have to be a particularly nasty splinter, though.
I know. I was thinking like
Just
Diyote
run,
trying
just
to give
run
himself
your
a
hands
splinter.
down the grain of crate.
That's what he's going to do.
Oh.
Diyote, looking for anything, even just make like a small prick on his hand or something. He's desperate, and he sees this crate that he was hiding next to and how it's been a little bit smashed up. It's a little bit rough. He just winces his eyes, places his hands on the side of the crate, holds it firmly, and runs his hand down that sharp, jagged section of the splintered crate.
Ugh, I'm just squirming thinking about it. But as you do that, you feel that tingling sensation going down the nape of your neck, and you do hear, for the briefest moment, a familiar voice.
Oh, you're a little freak, aren't you?
You're a little freak, aren't you?
At this rate, I'm going to have all my blood back in no time.
Diyote, you do notice something. As you run your hands down this crate, and you do get splinters, but it also causes your hands to bleed slightly. And you see a drop of blood hit the ground. And the blood doesn't look normal. The iridescent blood that comes from your veins falls to the ground, and when it hits the ground, it looks almost like the ground absorbs it.
Odd.
And then I'd like you to roll damage. Do just a d4.
Oh my gosh. It was a 3.
Ooh. Oh yeah, so yeah, I think the little freak line was appropriate then.
Yeah.
You-
What in the world?
Yeah, you did this, and Diyote, I have to imagine your lifestyle, you release a sound.
Yeah. Diyote makes a little ow, ow.
And when you make that noise, you feel the energy of the city turn towards you, but you have a moment to create whatever illusion you are going to make.
He has just used ancestral heritage, but it is to create an illusion of some sort. He's not going to use his blowgun in this moment. Instead, because this is going to be a smaller illusion in which he just kind of covers himself, I would love to roll something for what he decides to turn himself into.
Also for the audience, I don't remember if we've said, but Diyote's blowgun, we decided, is an amplifier for his ability. So if he uses the blowgun, it is a much more powerful version of whatever Diyote is trying to do. Hence what happened in the Chapel of Prosperity. But here, it's just going to be a smaller illusion.
Okay, gaunt, piercings.
Oh.
So gaunt and piercings. Diyote, as he hears that fairy say those very strange things to him and he sees the blood disappear into the ground, he starts thinking about the tingling on his neck and the sensation that's overcoming his body, and that allows him to focus his mind into what he's trying to do. And the next thing he notices, he can see little piercings in his nose and on his lip, and he can physically feel piercings in his ear, but when he's touching those piercings, he's feeling his face, and it's exactly what he was trying to do. He was trying to make himself look older and malnourished.
You look around you, and you see these eyes land on you by this crate, and the person who is looking out their window is the person who you can see, and they look at you. There is no recognition in their eyes. They have no idea who you are.
And Diyote just whispers to himself, "Perfect. Now let's get to the eye of the anvil."
I think chaos is going to go up for you.
Oh yeah, for sure. I feel like there's never going to be an interruption where chaos doesn't go up.
Yeah, it just feels like it always makes sense for it to go up.
So that puts us at a chaos 5.
So now we'll have the scene in which Diyote arrives at the Eye of the Anvil, but you now know that people are probably going to be looking for you a little bit more intently. They know you're around and you're alone. And this is probably the moment that Emerson went to Swords Keep and was... This is probably why they were in the stables. They were trying to get everybody on horses to go look for you.
Right. I saw Master Kismeta. Can you guys help me find him?
And they're like, Emerson.
Yeah, so they're dragging their feet on it. That explains a lot.
Yeah, that's good.
That's why they were all in the stable and they weren't panicking like everybody else. So, Eye of the Anvil. Are you ready?
Oh, I'm ready.
Diyote, you are huffing and puffing. I have a feeling that you didn't dilly-dally, right?
Yeah, he did a little bit of jogging, which he's not used to.
Yeah, and you look like this. Do you still look like an elf?
Yeah, he's just an older, malnourished elf with piercings on his face.
You look like a cool grandpa.
Yeah.
You're just huffing and puffing, and you've been running through the districts, making your way across bridges, through streets. Do you really know where the Eye of the Anvil is?
He has only heard of its general direction. He knows that it's in the Broken Giant, but that's pretty much about it.
I think in that regard, then, maybe you should do a roll.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, let's do a navigate roll from Perilous Wilds.
Oh.
Would you roll plus int?
Yes, I will.
So you're trying to plot the best course through an unfamiliar territory.
Oh, okay. It's a semi-success.
Yeah, you're huffing and puffing because you've been going over bridges, through the streets, just going around houses. You had to stop 9 times to ask people where you were going, and you just took the most circuitous route to the Broken Giant that you could have possibly taken. It took you way longer than you should have, but here you are, after, I imagine, an hour and a half.
Or longer, yeah.
Or longer. You don't know. You can't tell time. You are here. Take a moment to catch your breath. You are looking up at a giant rib bone, which you know for certain now is from the High Death. And there are doors embedded into this bone, and a number of signs, some swinging from chains, some carved directly into the bone, indicating that you are at basically a strip mall built into a rib bone.
Diyote smiles to himself, thinks this is pretty cool, but also, I don't know, out of some weird, affectionate way in his heart, he walks up to the side of the rib bone, gives it a small pat with his hand, and says, I'm working on helping you out, buddy. I'm gonna get you the help you need.
I'm curious if you have any response to this. The High Death is magical, and very much so.
That's interesting. Whew. Odds, I'll put it at 50-50, because I don't know.
Exceptional, yes.
Whoa, dude. Whoa.
Rolled a 2.
So this is like an unintentional brainworm type thing going on.
Yeah, I think that is exactly what it is. As you place your hand on the bone and you say that, and this is a busy district, so there are people walking around, and I think there's a kid that is looking at you with a cocked eyebrow. Then you feel something in your head. Starts as a low grumble, but then you can just barely make out the words.
And Diyote's taken aback a little bit. He was not expecting that. After a split moment of trying to regain his focus, because he's so surprised, he places his hand back on the rib bone and says back, I will.
There's no response.
Diyote starts looking up and down this rib bone, and Diyote is reading all of these signs above these entrances on this rib bone, looking for one that says the Eye of the Anvil.
You walk a little bit of a ways. This rib bone is huge. You walk from the tip all the way down to the end of the rib bone, and finally, you see it, a sign that says the Eye of the Anvil.
And Diyote nods his head, very proud of himself for finding this place today, all on his own. And he starts walking up to the entrance to take a peek inside.
Yeah, I think the door is wide open. And I'm curious, how many people are in here? I imagine it's brunch time.
Yeah, because we know that based off of, Llwyd and Abigail, the evening definitely became crowded, which makes me think that it could very well be the same case for midday as well.
Yeah, let's ask, is it crowded?
I'm going to put that at a very likely.
Interruption.
Oh, dude. All right. For our one listener, you know who you are. Am I allowed to roll again?
Yeah, answer that question, because I definitely did that. That was me. But you're looking into the tavern, so I think an interruption is highly appropriate at the moment.
Yeah. Let's roll to see what that interruption is.
Would you roll from the event focus table?
Yeah. NPC positive.
NPC positive. I rolled Brother Gearish.
Okay.
This makes me curious. Did Whittleby and Brother Gearish go here? Is this where they went?
They just brought Wiley to get something to eat. They're like, we needed to give her something to eat after everything she had been through to get her back up to health.
Would you roll me an action?
Divide.
Divide joy. Yeah, they're in here.
Gosh, dude.
That's what you see. Not only is it crowded because the answer was a yes, you see them in here. Diyote, you peek through the threshold and you see a bustling tavern. You see staff running about, trying to manage all the tables. You see people drinking and laughing. And then your ear is drawn to a particular voice. Oh, Wiley, you're actually quite funny.
And Diyote looks to that voice. He knows it's Brother Gearish. And he looks and he sees Brother Gearish, Brother Whittleby, and Wiley all sitting around a table. And he points his finger and lets out a small, ah!
You see all three of their heads turn towards you. Brother Gearish has a look of surprise. Brother Whittleby looks like he's tired of Wiley being the center of attention. And Wiley looks at you with a fully ambivalent face. You can't tell what she is thinking.
In that very moment, Diyote loses his focus on his illusion. And he goes back to looking like Diyote.
Oh, Diyote, come over.
And Diyote is holding his hands out to his side, not sure what to do. The last time he saw Wiley, she tried to kidnap Llwyd's family and tried to kill Llwyd. And he is still a little bit in shock from all of that, especially since this was the person who originally tried to kidnap him. And he's frightened in this moment. He is standing in still from shock.
And you see Wiley's hideous countenance, and she's just looking at you with dead eyes. And Whittleby crosses his arms, and he looks a little bit smug in the moment. And he says, Diyote, we were having a great time. And, well, I think that Wiley has something they need to say to you. And Whittleby stares at Wiley with a knowing face.
And Diyote forces himself to turn his neck and look at Wiley.
And Wiley says,
Oh, come on. Don't make me say it.
And Whittleby slams his hands on the table and he wags a wrinkled finger at her. And he says, No, you say it. I've had to sit here for 3 hours listening to your garbage.
Oh my gosh.
You promised that you would apologize. Now say it. Say you're sorry. Wiley just is groaning, almost like a child. Whittleby stares a hole through Wiley until Wiley finally says,
Look, kid, I'm sorry I tried to kidnap you.
And sorry you tried to kill his friends.
And sorry I tried to kill your friends. And, harass little girls.
And Diyote, in this moment, unfortunately, he cannot eke out an apology accepted. But he does manage to say, thank you. I appreciate it.
You do see that Brother Gearish, he looks so pleased. It is so clear that he is so happy that he was able to get this person to see the error of her ways. Diyote, as you're watching this exchange, you feel something large bump up behind you.
Diyote turns and sees this massive tortoise slowly scraping against his ankle with several dishes of food on the top of its shell. The tortoise turns its head towards Brother Gearish, slowly pokes Gearish in the thigh, And Girish looks over and sees the food on the tortoise.
Oh, such a charming experience. And Girish takes his plate. He's having a rather Spartan meal. I mean, like, it's meat and potatoes. He's a simple man. But then the other two take their bowls, and Diyote, you smell something so spicy coming from these bowls.
And Diyote looks to see what that is.
It looks like salad, but there's some kind of red plant inside of it.
He sees these red leaves, what looks to be charred fruit inside the salad, and it makes him curious. He thinks that actually looks kind of good. But then he realizes why he's here in this moment. And he turns to Girish and he says, well, it was nice to see you all again and catch up, but I am meeting someone here, so I'm going to go try to find them. Maybe I'll see you soon.
Yes, and thank you for giving Wiley an opportunity to redeem herself.
And Diyote doesn't really feel comfortable with Wiley still, so he just nods to Girish and waves, kind of walks away.
And you can hear from behind you a voice say, did you see the way he was looking at my food? He was going to try to mooch it off of me.
And so Diyote looks around to find an empty table or maybe even a bar stool of some sort, and eventually sees an opening, a small little table with 2 free seats. And he walks over and he sits down and he adjusts his cloak a little bit, moves his pockets around, starts to get a little bit warm, so he takes the black cloak off and is just looking around, waiting and waiting.
As you're looking around, you're seeing more of the decor of this place. You see the carvings on the walls. You see a giant anvil in the middle of the room. And you get the sensation that this whole tavern probably was a forge at some point, and it's why you feel so hot. And I'm curious, does Willow show up, at least right now?
Basing off previous logic, she said that she would know when he was here and that she would be ready. So I'm going to say very likely.
You're looking around. You're enjoying the atmosphere. And Diyote, you said that you wanted to come here before. Is it living up to your expectations, or what's on your mind?
Yeah, Diyote is seeing the place for what it is. He has never seen, of course he's never seen the Eye of the Anvil, but he's never seen anything like this before in the town of Osteel, in the city of Osteel. And he's looking around, he's appreciating, he sees carvings on the wall of stories. He sees that anvil in the middle along with some sort of art installation piece that comes from the ceiling and has foliage coming down through it and what would potentially act as a waterfall if it started raining. And all of the diversity in here. He is only used to seeing elves, but he sees so many people in here. And for once, he feels like his life has finally begun. He feels at home and at peace here. He doesn't see judging eyes falling upon him. He just feels like he's one of everybody else.
And as you're feeling that and taking it in, you hear a voice from somewhere close by. Yes, it's a lot, isn't it, Llwyd?
And Diyote whips his head to see that voice, where it's coming from.
Standing not but a few paces from you. You don't know how she got there or when she showed up, but you see an elven woman wearing mostly black, a hood over her head, but peeking out from beneath that hood, fiery red hair, and she's smiling at you.
Willow, I got us a table.
Thank you, Llwyd. You're very sweet.
He gets up and scoots the chair out for her.
Yeah, she laughs, but you know from her memories that you saw, she's a noble person. So the gesture of you pulling out her chair is one that you see on her face isn't a kindness that she has experienced in a while, but at one time was something that she was used to. She nods gratefully and then sits across from you.
I wasn't exactly sure if you actually knew that I was going to be here when I was here. So it kind of makes me wonder how you do know, but that's not important. I just want to let you know that I really appreciate everything you told me. We were able to find Rosalind and the Thronebreakers, and thanks to your warning, we decided to take action. We decided to take the next steps, and we were able to stop Rosalind.
I am so curious. Does she already know this?
I think there is a likely quality to that.
Yes. As you're telling the story, you see her politely listening, but there's a curious look on her face, as if none of this is new information to her. And when you finish speaking, she says, "Well, I'm glad to hear that, Diyote."
And then he goes on and he says, and then we heard that there were notes that could prove Llwyd's innocence in where Rosalind did all of her business. And so we went and got those. And Llwyd and Abigail are giving those notes to the people they need to give it to right now. So hopefully Llwyd and Abigail are going to be just fine. And I decided to come here.
She nods, and then she says, "Oh, yes, I am sure that will go very well for them."
Diyote thinks about that for just a split moment, but he doesn't want to think about it too much. He's happy to be here with a new friend. And so he asks, "So, Willow, how long have you been in town? Are you from Osteel?"
In her face, one that had like a placid look of all-knowingness, scrunches up a little cutely when you ask those questions. And her freckled cheeks break into a smile, and she says, "Llwyd, did you seriously ask me here just to get to know me better?"
Diyote kind of starts to blush a little bit. He knows that he wants to be up front as well. So he says, "Well, yes, because, I don't know. I just thought you were a person that I might be able to become friends with. And no, because, well, I'm on my first adventure, really. I don't plan on going back to the castle. I don't plan on going back to my stepmother. I don't know what my plans are other than I made a promise to someone that I would help them. So I'm just trying to find how to take those next steps. I don't know. You knew a lot about the Thronebreakers, and I thought maybe that you might know some information about some other things too. So while we become friends, maybe you might also be able to help me on this adventure of mine."
Do you look at her as you're saying all this?
Yeah, he's doing that thing where, he glances back for a split moment of eye contact occasionally, but then looks away to focus on his thoughts.
But like as you're looking at her, you remember her from the walls when you saw her and it was dark. You remember her eyes glowing blue with magic. But now, in the light of the tavern, you look into her gray eyes and you don't see even a flicker of magic. That magic that she was using to tell whether or not she was being lied to is not present here. "Llwyd, do you know what I like so much about you?"
That I have cool mind reading powers?
Well, that is very special. But no, you're guileless. I don't think you could tell a lie if you wanted to.
He gives a small smile, shuffles in his seat a little bit.
I'm not used to people who are so honest and easy to read. Honestly, it makes me feel a little comfortable with you.
And he looks back at her dull eyes, but to him, in this moment, they're anything but dull. And he gives another smile, and he says, "I've never been around anyone who's felt so much like me, I guess, looking for our next steps and who we really are."
She nods. But Diyote, you can't help but notice if you choose to. She hasn't answered anything that you have said.
So he pipes back up, goes back to one of his questions. "Would you want to help on my adventure or no?"
Diyote, well, let's put it this way. I am currently employed by another person, and I don't know that I'm at liberty to just do whatever I please.
You don't even maybe have like a free day to just help me out or something?
Sure, Diyote. I have some time.
Cool. I just need help finding someone. There's this person that I said I'd help with their problem. Well, I guess they're kind of employed by someone else too, but they don't want to be employed by them anymore. So I was going to go talk to that person, but I don't even know where to start looking.
Well, Diyote, I know many things, and if you're just looking for a person, I assume that I can help you find them.
Well, all I know is that this person, and he stops. He thinks he doesn't know how else to say what he needs to say without just saying it. He tries to decide if that's a good idea or not. But he makes the leap. He feels like he can trust Willow. This person I'm looking for, as far as I know, well, she goes by the sorceress, or at least that's all I've heard her called as. She's the one that created the High Death, the creature in the waterfall.
There is silence, and I'm curious, did she know about this? That this is what you wanted to do, that you spoke to the High Death?
I'm going to say it's unlikely.
She did not. Her face goes flat, her expression unreadable for a moment, and you do see her hand shift as if she's going to react in a particular way, and she blinks several times as if trying to contain something, and she says, "Excuse me, what?"
And Diyote realizes he might have messed up. He says, "Oh, I'm sorry. That might have been a little bit too much. I can take it back. You don't have to help."
Diyote Kismeta, how could you possibly know what you just said?
And then he stops. The way that she said that makes him think that she knows a little bit about what's going on. Wait, are you saying that you know about the High Death and the sorceress?
She pauses, clearly thinking about what she should say and what she shouldn't. As I've said, Diyote, I know many things, but in this moment, what I am curious about, for your own safety, is how do you know about these things?
Diyote holds out his hand, waiting for her to grab his.
She looks a bit sheepish, as if she's wary of touching you, but slowly she relents and she takes your hand.
As she grabs onto his arm in a reverse brainworm type of way, he floods her mind with everything that he saw when he was brainworming the High Death and the moments surrounding that. Llwyd and Abigail and Diyote in that lair, speaking to the High Death, making that promise, and the moments shortly following it. And when it's done, he lets go and he looks at Willow.
She takes all that in. It hits her like a wave, and she has her eyes closed. But when you finish and you look at her, her eyes open and they are glowing blue. And she says, Diyote Kismeta, I suggest that you forget all of that and do not continue down this path.
I'm sorry, Willow. I can't. I made a promise.
She takes her hand away from you and she drops them beneath the table, but you can hear it. She is clenching the fabric of her pants tightly, as if she's trying to contain some kind of hostile energy. Diyote, you are fortunate to even have survived what you encountered. Do not make this mistake.
I think it would be a mistake if I turned my back on this. We may not have a life purpose or anything like that, but this is my current purpose.
Is she willing to go any further down this conversation? That is what I'm going to ask.
I don't know. I mean, 50-50.
I rolled a 99. Exceptional no. She is fully unwilling to continue down this path. Then I can't help you. And she stands up and attempts to leave.
Willow, when you were young, you were shut out from the world. You were told that you weren't good enough. You weren't allowed around here. Frankly, your life wasn't worth existing within these walls. And I don't know the exact details, But I can only assume that ever since then, you've been trying to find a life worth living, as I am. Just because the High Death isn't a person like you or me, doesn't mean that they don't want to live, or that they don't want something better. Imagine being kicked out, locked away forever, with no end, no reason to live, but being forced to anyway. I would gladly exchange my life so that the High Death could make up for 2,000 years of not living, or of living a life that wasn't worth living.
Would you roll parlay for me? I'm going to give you a +1 forward on it because it was a compelling argument.
Oh. With that +1, it turned my semi-success into a full success.
She's standing, her back away from you, her slender figure seeming smaller than it seemed before when you saw her. But when you finish speaking, she releases a sharp exhale, and she says, Llwyd, you are a remarkable person. You are also very dangerous for me to be around.
You don't have to be around me then. You can just point me in the direction, and I'll take care of it myself.
You want to meet this person?
I have to.
She looks up towards the ceiling, and you can see tears welling in her eyes. I'll take you to her. I know where she is.
Diyote gives a small nod. He feels a relief in his chest, and he stands up, scoots his chair back into the table, and walks towards Willow.
Llwyd, promise me something. Don't say anything that you might regret.
That seems to be a lesson that I'm still learning, is how to be careful.
Well, let's go see the sorceress, as you called her. You know what that means. It's finally time to meet the sorceress. Or it will be in the next episode. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Roll and Tell. If you love what you're hearing, please leave us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It is the best way to help us reach new ears. And if you want to keep up to date with all the cool stuff with Roll and Tell, including some really incredible fan art that's been showing up so far, follow us on Twitter and Instagram at RollAndTellPod. We love sharing these stories with you, and we want to do it for a living. So if you want to support that dream, please check out our Patreon, where if you join even the lowest tier at $2, you will get access to all of our bonus episodes. Well, I don't know about you, but I've been dying to figure out who this terrible sorceress is, or even if she's all that terrible. I guess we don't know all that much about her except for she created the High Death and made it eat people. Okay, yeah, she's probably bad, but we'll find out together next time when we roll and tell. Diyote, I have to imagine your lifestyle, you release a sound.
Yeah. Diyote makes a little... No, that was too... That was too much. That was too much, Hagen. I think that's going at the end of the episode.
Absolutely.